Welcome back to the Master Your Money podcast with me, Marini Jackson, your guide to mastering credit, building wealth, and creating financial freedom. Let's get into today's episode. So, today we are going to talk about credit cards, how to use credit cards wisely, and to use it as a tool and not as a trap. And I am looking and pulling up my notes to the side, but today's topic is very powerful, and that's also very personal to me, but also to a lot of people who want to learn or need to learn how to use their credit cards as a tool, but not as a trap. So I do want you to remember this: credit is not the enemy. It's the misuse and lack of strategy that are. And we're going to fix that today. So we want to make sure we're using our credit cards like a pro and not a prisoner. Now, before I jump into that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, about my introduction to credit and credit cards, and some wins that I've had with credit cards as well. Before we talk about ways, briefly, I'll talk about those, but then we'll jump into ways to use your credit wisely. So for me, my introduction to credit cards was when I was in college. I was a college student, stayed on campus, and right outside of our student center, there were always different companies there, whether it was life insurance, one of the restaurants in the area, you name it, it was probably there. And everybody wanted to set up a table because we were college students, we were a captive audience. Without fail, there were credit card companies there, and they would have trinkets on the table. I call them trinkets. But I remember the day I went, I think the sign up and get a gift incentive was that you get an umbrella, and it was about to rain, and I didn't have an umbrella. So I was like, okay, I'll sign up. Signed up for a credit card and would use my credit card, but didn't have the full understanding about paying that back and the funds back that I used in a timely manner. And that was my introduction, was kind of feeling like, okay, I have this extra form of spending, but really didn't have a strategy or learn how to manage that. I had no clue what the interest rate was, still don't have a clue what that first card's rate was, but I did not manage that very well. And fast forward a few years, I'd graduated from college, I'd moved back home, and I was working a job, had to buy tires. And if anyone knows, tires are not cheap, especially when you have to buy 4 of them at once. Went to my local Sears Auto Center, and I think I had a Sears card at that time. And Sears is a department store which is now closed, but that particular department store also had an auto center. Open up an account. When I worked there the summer after my, I think, freshman or sophomore year of college, I worked there, and as an employee, some of us opened accounts. So I had that account, didn't really use it much, but again, fast forward to when after graduation, working, needed tires, bought tires from the tire center, put it on my credit card. I didn't expect to be fired from my first job out of college, but almost a year to the date that I was hired, I was let go from that company. So of course, no income, no method to pay. Now, I did not know or understand you should, and I strongly recommend that you do call a credit card company, your creditors, if there's any change to your employment status. So I went from working a full-time job to working a part-time job because I knew I wanted to work, because I also had student loans that I needed to pay. And it was a challenging time. It got to the point where that particular card company would come to my mother's home every week. There was a FedEx truck that would come every week and bring me a certified, or not certified, but it would come FedEx, but it and they wanted to ensure that I received that letter. And that was basically the company sending me letters, sending me my bill, saying you need to pay this money. And I felt so much shame because number one, FedEx was coming every week without fail, and I really didn't have the money to pay them and wasn't sure when I'd have the money to pay them as well. So long story short, my credit card was closed. The company closed my card, and of course had that negative mark on my credit report. Again, still didn't understand credit or anything at that point. I just knew that account was closed. I didn't have the money to pay. I didn't know what was next. So I continued working and going on about my life. Years later, once I became older, wiser, and found out more about credit, is when I saw, or my sister, she would always say, order your credit report, order your credit report. And she never said what to do once you ordered it. So I'd order, call and order my credit reports, and I'd see it there and like, oh yeah, that did happen. Oh yeah, that account got closed, but didn't understand what a credit score was, what impact that closed account had. So do not be like me. Ask questions. But again, I didn't know what I didn't know. But now that I know, I'm sharing it with you so that you can make wise decisions with credit. So, topic number one, it's not a trap. The card companies, their intent is not to necessarily trap you, but you can use it as a tool to your advantage. Many credit cards have great benefits, like they give you cash back, they give you rewards points that you can cash in later. I've known some people to use their reward points from their credit card when they're using their credit responsibly, of course, and they use those funds to go on vacation, meaning they can purchase a plane ticket, they get airline miles, they get, you know, money towards hotel stays. There's several different types of credit cards that you can get. But the first way to use your credit wisely is make sure you treat your credit card like a debit card with benefits. Now, when I say that, that doesn't mean let me just swipe, swipe, swipe. If you don't have the funds to pay that card back, don't swipe. Meaning, don't just say, well, I'm going to have the good intention to pay it back. I've been there where I've said, well, I know I'll pay it back, but I didn't give myself those firm deadlines to pay credit cards back. And over time, that balance would climb, but I had no clear objective, no strategy, and no plan that I was implementing to make sure those cards were paid back in a timely manner. So this keeps you out of having revolving debt and paying like high interest while you're earning rewards. You get protection, and also you get that positive credit history if you're not swiping, if you can't pay back. So if you can't pay, don't swipe. If you can, and before I jump to number two, so credit cards are payment tools, they're not income. So if you know you have a $60,000 income and you also have a credit card and your credit limit is $10,000, that doesn't mean that you have $70,000 in income. You still only have $60,000 in income. If you use your credit card, pay it back, pay that money back, pay that balance in full. So that's tip number two. Pay the balance in full every month. Now, I know for some people it may not be possible to pay the full balance every single month, but interest is the trap. And some cards can have up to 26, 28, 30% interest that you're paying. So you're buying something for, let's say, $10, but then you add 30% interest on top of that if you're not paying that $10 back. It can be a trap that catches a lot of people very, very quickly. So some ways that you can win is you can set up auto pay. So you can auto pay for your statement balance. So balance is $10, pay that $10. Check your balance weekly. And I say this because in my neighborhood, there's a group, online group that my neighbors post on. A lot of it is complaints, so I kind of scroll past those. But one thing someone said really caught my attention one day, and it was regarding the gas station in our neighborhood. The person said, "Don't go to this place because I went to get gas and went inside and someone put a skimmer on the machine inside the store." I looked at my credit card statement. So tip, look at your statement, look at it every week. And my purchase should have been X number of dollars, but it was actually X number of dollars. And they were able to quickly find that, quickly report that to their credit card company. They also contacted the gas station to let them know that happened as well. So you also don't want to carry a balance just because you know you can. If you have great credit and you know that you have a ample savings account, all your bills are paid in full every month, just don't carry a balance just because I can. I don't have to pay the whole thing. And paying interest can be optional when you're intentional. So if you have the 30% interest and you have the $100 bill on your credit card, when you pay that $100 in full, you're not paying interest. So again, pay in full when you can. If you know you can, go ahead and pay it. So next tip, and this involves your utilization. Keep your utilization low on your credit card. Excuse me. Keep your utilization below 30%, and under 10% is even better. And the reason is this is a big factor for your credit score. It's one of the biggest factors. So it makes up actually 30% of your credit score, your utilization. So if your credit limit is $100 or $1,000, let's say $1,000, $1,000, aim to use no more than, if you're shooting for the 30% utilization, if you're aiming for that 30% utilization, aim to use no more than $300. If you're aiming to use the 10% utilization of that $1,000 credit limit, aim to use no more than $100. And of course, you can adjust those numbers as your credit, whatever your credit limit is. So one thing you can definitely do is request credit limit increases from your credit card company. And this is a tip that you can use without spending that additional money, that increased credit limit. So if your limit is, excuse me, $1,000 and you know that you have like $700 that you've used, so that's 70% utilization, then that is tremendously impacting your credit score. So you can call your credit card company and ask for a credit limit increase. Now they may increase it to $2,000, $1,500, $5,000, whatever that is. When you have that higher credit limit, what you're doing is it minimizes your utilization. Now, you do want to make sure you're paying that off and you're not adding to it and spending more, but this is a great way that you can increase your credit score and use credit to your advantage. Okay, next tip. Use your credit cards for fixed, predictable expenses. This is a tip I actually gave my mother a few years ago when she was looking to improve her credit score. She wasn't using credit. She had a car and was paying that off. And that was basically it. She had no other credit because she paid off a car before, paid off her home, things of that nature. So my mom got a credit card, and I was like, Mom, you have to put gas in your car. You're going to put gas in your car anyway. Use your credit card, pay for that. Gas isn't expensive, or for her car, it definitely wasn't expensive. I told her, I was like, just go to the gas station. Instead of pulling out your debit card, pull out your credit card. And that's something, it was a predictable expense for her. And that was a great way for her to build her credit and use credit as a tool because it was low risk, small, predictable, and she knew she was going to, make those purchases anyway. And I told her, I was like, well, just if you don't want to really be concerned, if it makes you comfortable to just pay that, to the credit card company every week, that's fine. Other examples can be groceries, your utilities, your phone bill, and subscriptions. And using your credit card this way, these are bills that you've already planned for. This is money that would already have come out of your bank account anyway, and you're just using credit cards strategically. Now, I did meet someone, this was a few years ago, it was a colleague, and he told me, he's like, I use credit cards for all of my bills. And I was just impressed, like, okay, that's interesting. But he also flew a lot for work and had his family was in another place. So he would use like his miles and points. And he said that was what he used to like go home and visit family, to buy presents for his nieces and nephews at Christmas time, things of that nature. So he found a rhythm that worked for him and was able to be disciplined with making sure that he was paying his credit card bill monthly, making sure that his monthly bills were not lacking, and still using that in a great way and having a strategy about it. So another thing you can do is you can set alerts, boundaries, and guardrails for yourself. If you're someone who may not be as disciplined, but you want to stay on top of things with your credit card, you can always set balance alerts. You can set reminders in your phone for yourself. And you can also have spending category alerts. I know with one of my credit cards, there's actually like rewards you can get for certain spend categories, and that changes quarterly. But if there's certain things that you want to make sure you're not spending on, this is a great way to do that. So some people think setting boundaries for yourself is limitation, but it's not limitation. It's not restriction. It actually gives you freedom because oh, well, once I hit this amount, I'm done. So that's another way you can use your credit cards effectively, but also have that discipline, as I mentioned about earlier. Also, you can leverage rewards. So don't chase Don't chase the rewards, but you can leverage them. So, as I mentioned about the colleague who uses credit cards and use the rewards points, some of the things you can use your rewards for would be cash back. You can get travel points, statement credits. I know that's one of my personal favorites to do, is to use the points for statement credits. And essentially, with one of my credit card companies, what they do is they have reward points. So for every time you pay your bill, there's a certain number of reward points you get. And those points build up over time, and you can use it for travel points. You can use it to get cash back where they'll actually cut a check and mail it to you, or you can use it for the statement credits, as I mentioned. And I use it for statement credits because I'm looking to pay my credit card off as quick as possible. And with using the rewards, which cost me nothing, I definitely feel for me that it helps my budget as well. For instance, if I had a balance that I needed to pay and it was maybe $150 and I had $150 in credits, rewards, so have you, dollars, I should say, that I can spend. That's $150 that's not coming out of my pocket. That $150 could go towards gas or groceries or something else for that particular month. So it's a great way. You can save money. You can, like I said, I paid my debt off, and you can have that for traveling as well. Use those. So that's another strategy. Also, you can also separate your everyday spending from your emergency credit. So, what I mean by that is if you're someone who says, I may need to use a credit card for emergencies, or I would like to have a credit card for emergencies because in some instances, me having cash or whatever method may not work for me. I may not be able to get to the bank if it's, and I again always talk about where I live, which is, during hurricane season, we're definitely always, looking, always preparing or making sure we're prepared if we ever have to evacuate. So you can have one card that you use daily, again, for the gas, the subscriptions, the groceries, things of that nature. And then you may want to also, and I'm looking at my notes, have another card that you have specifically for emergencies. Now, again, a pair of shoes on sale at your favorite store is not an emergency. If you have to evacuate and you have to go to a hotel, you and your family, that's an emergency. Renting a car to get out of town because there's an emergency, that's an emergency. So what this does is it helps to prevent emotional or panic spending. If you're someone who may get emotional, like, oh my gosh, I need this outfit, or I need these shoes, or this item is limited time only, I have to get it. You don't have to use that emergency credit card. So you want to make sure your emergency credit is a backup, but it's not your lifestyle. So you don't want to ever confuse that. And you want to use your credit cards to build your credit, not to patch your financial life. So credit can be used to build your credit history. It can improve your cash flow timing. It can also protect your purchases. And by that in particular, I mean that if you have made a purchase, I know some people who only make their large purchases on a credit card. For instance, if you buy like a a television, tires, things that are high ticket items. If there is, I know some credit card companies that offer, I think it's like a warranty. Like if you bought this item with your credit card, if it's damaged or stolen, then we'll replace it within a year or however long. And some people may not purchase a manufacturer's warranty for that product, but they know that their credit card has a warranty that they can use. And the same if something is stolen. Also on the neighborhood online community board, I've seen where people have mentioned that they purchased things from Amazon or various companies and their packages were stolen. And if they purchased it with a credit card, they can actually have some protection for that purchase. So, things you don't want to use your credit card for is you don't want to fund your lifestyle. You don't want to use your credit card to simply avoid budgeting, and you don't want to use it to replace income. So, excuse me, in my example earlier where I said we don't want to say I have $60,000 in income and I have a $10,000 credit card, so I have 70. No, again, you only have $60,000 of income. So, last one. So, you want to review your credit card like a CEO. You want to make sure that you are checking in with your finances. You want to check your fees, your interest rates, your rewards, and your usage patterns. You may notice at certain times of the year, you may use your credit card a bit more than others. That may be if you're paying insurance payments, if you're paying tax bills, things of that nature, using that credit card. And then you can ask yourself, is my credit card serving my financial goals or is it sabotaging them? And then you can always cancel or downgrade cards that no longer align. Now, with canceling cards, I can do a whole separate podcast about that. So, with canceling cards, you do want to be mindful that if you've had a particular card for a long time, canceling it can negatively impact your credit utilization, but also your credit history as well. So that's something to consider. Like, if I cancel this card and close this account, will it negatively impact my credit score? And that's something that you want to consider. Don't just be emotional and say, I'm paying this card off, I'm just going to cancel it. If you've had that card maybe 3 months, it may be, it won't have as much impact as if you've been a long-standing and good card account holder with that company. So definitely, put a pin in that, but review your cards, review and make sure it's aligning with your financial goals and not sabotaging you. But also wanted to leave you with this final tip. So your credit cards, they can be powerful. They can be a great tool for you. And you want to make sure that you also have discipline, that you're planning and you have purpose. And credit can be used as a tool when you control it, but it becomes a trap when it controls you. So you don't want to build wealth by avoiding credit. You want to build your wealth by mastering your credit, and you can definitely master credit. It doesn't have to master you. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. And if it has, I wanted to thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Master Your Money podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new lesson on mastering your money. And I'd definitely love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And also share with a friend who you know is ready to get started on their financial journey. And if you're ready to take the next step, go to my website, www.virtuefinancialsolutions.org, and there you can learn more about my coaching programs, my workshops, and resources that will help you on your financial journey. And until next time, remember, you don't just you don't just manage your money, you master it. Have a great one.